Mm-hmm. Yes. He'll be on for 15. He'll be on for like until 6:45. So you need to have you need to have the alderman up so I can roll over to him. Hey, Daryl. I'm sorry. I'm just saying hello to one of my morning stars who came on. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Let's see how she's sounding this morning. Pam Morris Walton, how are you? I think we need to bring that down. I want to make sure I can hear her. I can hear her clearly. It's just not loudly. Just the audio from the studio, just so that I can hear her. No, 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 no worries. No, 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 no. It's okay. It's all right. Okay, wonderful. I'm doing great. You sound fantastic. You sound fantastic. You always are. And that's one of the lessons that we need to get from you. Oh, you sound wonderful. Okay, just give me one hot second. Okay, sorry. Huh. Okay. Sorry, Miss Pam. I am always trying to get the last couple of stories in. Okay. Thank you so much. And let me know when we can have lunch. Okay. You from Virginia? Okay. 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 Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. Get out of here. Bless, bless his heart. Love him. Wow. That is that is incredible. Oh my God. No, no, no. It's just, it's amazing because, when you see when you know the history of West Virginia and slavery, it's really interesting. Well, it's just it's interesting. Wow. Wow, wow. Oh, wow. I think one of these schools, we went with my father, he gave the commencement. Well, he's been to West Virginia a lot. Oh, you were? Okay, I wish I could have been there. I had a meeting, but I'll be there at the next one. Okay, so let me see. Let me bring this up. Hey, everybody. You know what? I want you all to go to WCPT820.com because I want to be on tie line today. It's a better sound for the show. I stay here so that I can keep the community connected. But until I get this new computer from the station, I won't be able to do that for you. I wish I could, like I do on Sundays, but I have a completely different setup on Sundays for Keep Hope Alive. I'm able to turn on the audio. Thank you, in the studio, and let you all hear and let you all hear what's going on. I cannot do that here. So if you would just go there today, because if I could let you all hear this, I promise you I would, but it's not as good. Or am I mistaken, Devin? You could not? No. That's yeah. That's. But if we were on my phone, we could. Okay. All right. That's the problem. I don't like that. I might go back to the phone after for this, but we'll see. All right, everybody, come on up. You can bring up the volume, please. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Monday, February 27, almost March, everybody. Oh, it's a blessing to be with you today. We have our election here in Chicago for mayor and alderpersons, and it's going to be quite exciting. We don't know who's going to win, who's going to place, who's going to show. In all likelihood, we will have an April 4th runoff. What will that mean? So I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. Commissioner Brandon Johnson, Congressman Chuy Garcia will be with us today. And you, I want to know who you got. Have you made up your mind yet about who you're going to vote for? And who do you want to see make the runoff? Should there be one? Yeah, all of that. I want to hear your thoughts today. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, and let's get right to it. I'm coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and YouTube, the Santita Jackson Show, and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Everyone. Today, I'm trying something a little bit different because I really want to be on tie line. That's a cleaner feed. What you've been hearing me do over the past few weeks is broadcast from my phone. I'd rather do this just for the sake of longevity as we post the podcast. It sounds better to do it this way. But all of you who are in the Morning Stars community, you won't be able to hear. So I'm trying to figure out how to rectify that. I'll figure it out, figure out something. That having been said, go to WCPT820.com so that you can hear the glorious Pam Morris Walton as she gives us the good news. And let's get to what will be a beautiful day in Chicago. It will almost be 60 degrees. 55 degrees will be the high and showers. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 37 degrees and rain. In the NBA, well, the NBA All-Star break is over. The Bulls 102, the Wizards 82, the Warriors 109, the Timberwolves 104, and the NHL just keeps chugging along. The Wild 3, the Blue Jackets 2, and the Chicago team will be playing the Ducks tonight. The U.S. is only one of 7 countries in the world without some form of universal paid family and medical leave. And just think about this, everybody. After all of the pressure that Norfolk Southern have been under after this disaster in East Palestine, Ohio, where Aaron Brockovich, the noted activist, has just had a big town hall meeting. Now they have been granted, the unionized workers have been granted paid sick leave, which is something that all the railway workers in the United States have been fighting for. And they've been denied that by these multi-billion-dollar companies that make more and more and more money. Remember the train, the Norfolk Southern train that derailed, that caused this, what people are calling a Chernobyl level uh, accident. It was 1.9 miles long, and there were only two full time employees working on it and one trainee. Think about that. 1.9 miles long. Even if they wanted to stop the train, it would take them a long time to stop it. 1.9 miles long, and they only had three people working on it, one of whom they were training. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. Think about it. A barrage of snow, rain, and that's what we're in today, and harsh winds is forecast from the west coast to the Great Lakes today. Following a similar string of severe weather last week, approximately 284,000 homes and businesses were without power, everybody, across the U.S. as of this morning, about half of which were in Michigan, praying for our brothers and sisters up there. More than 100 other storm reports were recorded in parts of the central United States. And uh, the U.S. Department of Energy has assessed that the COVID-19 pandemic most likely came from a laboratory leak in China. President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan goes before the Supreme Court on Tuesday. Millions of student loan borrowers could see up to 20,000 of their debt canceled, depending upon the outcome of the hearing. And those are just some of the headlines as we see progressives urging the Senate Democrats to ditch a tradition, the blue slip tradition that allows the GOP to veto the Biden court appointments. Now, it could happen if the Democrats were in power as well. The blue chip practice, it's not an official Senate rule, but it's a tradition. It's a practice when you get to the Hill. They are very, very steeped in tradition, if not outright rules. And the a senator can unilaterally block a federal district court judge nominee from being considered if that person is from their home state. That's right. It's not an official rule, but the GOP have been using this rule to strike down what could be an historic resetting of the court system, really populating the court system because the GOP would not allow President Obama to do that. So think about that, everybody. And then there's a study that ties long-term pollution to heart disease and heart attacks. We should all be our environmentalists, everybody. Can you imagine if that's what's happened, according to this JAMA study? What do you think about East Palestine, Ohio? And those are just some of the headlines. We are so excited today to always have our gospel sister. Indeed, she is an icon in our church. There's so much that she does. And I want you to get her book, 57 Days. Wait for a New Heart, everybody. And it is a journey. It is a journey of faith and love. I remember seeing you shortly after you'd gotten your heart transplant because we were on the plane, if you recall, years ago. And I was concerned about you, but I said, her spirit is so strong. I remember calling my parents, and immediately we started to pray for you. And to see you now, on God is a miracle worker. It's so wonderful. It's just a blessing. I feel it's a sincere privilege to have you with us today. And on the Mondays when we can get you when you're not out there traveling and doing your thing. Pam Morris Walton, what's the good news today? Mm, I love that. I love that. An obstacle is your opportunity. An obstacle is your opportunity. Talk about turning a minus into a plus. Talk about turning a minus into a plus. Everybody get the book, 57 Days. It's a wait for a new heart. So many of us are afraid to be donors. So many of us, and we have been abused by the system. Black people in particular, I would say Native Americans, indigenous people who've been on the downside of advantage have been afraid of the donor process. But I tell you what, um, thank God. Thank God you were the recipient. I know I love you. Don't stop. You just have to, we're going to get you back next week. I love Pam Morris Walton. She has been an inspiration to me just down through the years. And I just thank God uh, for Albertina Walker, the Queen of Gospel, for bringing us together on in a personal way. Because I've been following you for years. Love you so much. Pam Morris Walton. That's right, our gospel sister. And of course, we have got Dr. Shanina Knighton. Dr. Knighton, I don't even know where to begin. The Wuhan lab, indeed, more and more of our government agencies are saying, well, this COVID did leak from the lab. And well, okay, you guys, yes, I'm always a skeptic. Well, not a skeptic. I'm always trying to find out what's the story behind the story. I should have known that, now that China's about to become our number one enemy, that this was going to come from the lab. But when President Trump was saying it, you all were just saying that he's a horrible guy. Let me tell you something. I have a background in science and music. Okay. In music, if the note is flat, if it's sharp, you don't want to hear it. It's just science. That's what it is. So I'm really agnostic about where the information comes from. I always check it out, but I just want to know what's the deal. Where did this come from? Because this virus has confounded everybody, everybody. So should we be concerned about the origin of? Are you just in general? Are you concerned about the origin of an infection? I mean, is that important to you? as an infection preventionist? Do you need to chase down where something comes from, if it came from a lab or if it developed organically, you know, in just out and about in the world? Is that important? It's okay. Hmm. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. I said, wait a minute. Trump said this, what, 2 years ago? Now, did he put it in artfully? And yeah, but you know, you with the way this behaved, I mean, a lot of people had a lot of questions. And it's unscientific not to be able to ask questions and have them answered, or certainly have them explored. So, you know, I mean, I think it is of importance that we know where this came from. And I just say this as a layperson. You are an preventionist and you're a research scientist. So I can only imagine. So, you know, I had to ask you that today because I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Most people have not been boosted. So people are pushing back on this and they have a lot of questions. And the Republicans are having hearings now, which the corporate media are not playing up. They're not letting you hear. So pay attention to everything, everybody. Loving you, Dr. Shanina Knighton. Hey, Dr. Nina, that is her handle. Let's speak with Congressman Chuy Garcia, candidate for mayor, one of the top tier. He could be in the runoff. Back with more with Santita Jackson Chuy in just a minute. Devin, hold on one moment, Shanina. Can you call me on the just on one of the lines? Okay, thank you so much. All right. Sorry, you guys. You all can't hear, and that's driving me crazy. And I've let everyone know that, you know, we are a community here, and so the audio is just as important as anything else. So here we go. So you will be able to hear from here on out. So we will get the congressman up. Oh, okay. How you doing, Shanina? Yes, I can.
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing? You know, we got this election. And so, whew, oh yeah, there's a whole lot. And you know, it's going to be 55 degrees here today. I mean, girl, this weather is crazy. Okay, hold on. Keith, can you hear Dr. Knighton now? I had to go on my phone. Let me know if you can hear. Anthony, oh my gosh. Anthony, call me. Anthony, I'll bring you on my show. You know, everybody, I want you all to give Anthony Liuzzo some love. You remember in the lead up to the Selma March, Dr. Knighton, there were two. Well, in the lead up to the Selma March, you had Jimmy Lee Jackson's killing and Reverend James Reeves' killing that really focused attention on Selma because it was actually 3 marches. And then America was shocked when a white mother of 5, the wife of a union man, left Detroit because she was so outraged by what she had seen, the treatment of Black people, of Reverend Reeb and everyone. She went down to Alabama and she just started working with the organizers. She was driving people to the airport, to and fro, and on and on and on. And she was murdered. Viola Liuzzo. She's one of the martyrs of the civil rights movement. Her son is with us today, Anthony Liuzzo, and I'm going to bring him on. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm going to bring him on in a couple of days because he needs our help. So everybody give Anthony Liuzzo some love because he and his siblings and their father, they have made a great sacrifice. And without them and without her death, without the death of Reverend James Reeb and Jimmy Lee Jackson, we wouldn't have the Voting Rights Act. Everybody, please give Anthony Liuzzo some love today. I love you, Anthony. And Congressman Garcia.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? I'm so glad that you're with us. And we're going to have, of course, the man who assumed your seat. Yes. Well, you know what? Ask your Pearl if I can have her in the next. I'm going to have her at 7 because I need to give as much time to the congressman as I can because he's got to leave.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, I'm so glad that you're with us. My parents send their love to you, and I want you to. I'm going to give you the runway just to make your case since you're not going to be with us, you know, for the full segment.
Seconds.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Are you on a speaker, Congressman?
No, I'm on my. Got my headphones on.
Okay. I think Devin, is that best? Because we want to make sure that he can be heard.
Is it headphones or is there a built-in microphone in the headphones? built-in microphone. Okay, built-in microphones kind of don't work the best, unfortunately,
Okay.
sound-wise, for hearing you on radio. We're on the phone now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. I just want you to be heard most clearly.
10 seconds.
Okay, stand by. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. We have got our mayoral election tomorrow. We might have a runoff on April 4th, ironically, the date of the assassination of that we commemorate for the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. But, there are, we have 9 candidates. But we do have a top tier of candidates. The clear leader, at least according to many polls, would be Paul Vallis. But we don't know who he would face in the runoff. It could be Brandon Johnson. It could be the mayor. It could be this man, Congressman Chuy Garcia, former alderman, someone who I've known for many, many years, a great coalition builder. Many of you have been asking questions about that. I met him when Harold Washington was running for mayor. Many of us, because Harold Washington was mayor 1-2 terms, we forget how hard it was to endorse him. And when you endorsed him in a city that has been controlled by the Democratic machine, it's almost as if you were signing away your public life because the machine came in on you. But this man and Luis Gutierrez and Gus Savage and some people, and Lou and Georgia Palmer, some people, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Bob Lucas, all these people stood with Harold Washington. And then when Reverend Jackson was running for president, saw him again. He was organizing the Latino community and progressives. So it is in this context that I bring to you my dear friend, someone I just had to say this, and I told your staff that I was going to bring you up this way. It almost makes me very emotional, because when people question your bona fides as a progressive and as someone who's worked in the community, I have to push back very, very hard, because you've worked very, very hard for years, at risk to your career, but the people trust you and love you, and they continue to elect you and lift you higher and higher. Welcome to the show, Congressman Chuy Garcia.
Thank you so much, Santita. It's great to join you, and thank you for covering some history about how we have transformed Chicago politics, how we made progressivism popular, and how we're building new coalitions in our times, and of course redefining politics in Chicago. It's really important for people to be able to look back at least 40 years, and this is a wonderful time to commemorate the victory of Harold Washington in coalition politics, and the emergence of modern, inclusive government that has enabled people to get elected, to be represented in the cabinet, to be meeting agencies, other municipal agencies, sister agencies. It is a wonderful time to reflect how far we have come. For me, personally, serving the people of Illinois' 4th Congressional District has been the honor of my life. I'm very proud to have delivered for my constituents, to bring home to Chicago and to Illinoisans historic investments to improve infrastructure and keep our city afloat during the pandemic. But our city is on the wrong track, and I am the only candidate in the race with the experience at all levels of government to build coalitions that we need to build a safer, more prosperous future for our city. We are at a critical juncture, and I believe that I have the experience and the relationships to make that happen so that Chicago can experience a recovery from all that we've learned and have gone through during the pandemic, and certainly the lessons of the racial reckoning and the importance of making equity a core of everything that we do in a rebuilding experience. I also want to just remind folks that in this 40-year period, it has included a movement for empowerment, especially of Black, brown, and Asian people who have been able to elect people to city council, to the county board, county-wide, and then to the state legislature. Case in point, there is now, for example, an Asian caucus in the Illinois General Assembly. The roots of that lie in the election here in Washington 40 years ago. Certainly, that there's a Latino caucus and a Black caucus in the city council and in the state legislature, and our representations of a type of empowerment and the changes that have occurred over the time. Finally, I would just add that the election of young people and the next generation of leaders to city council, to the state, county, etc., has occurred in the last, especially 6 to 8 years. I'm very proud to have participated in lifting up that next generation of leaders, because that shows that we've been working on building the bench, thinking about the future, and yes, turning over the reins of leadership to a new generation.
Why is equity and coalition building so important to you? Why is that so necessary? I mean, particularly in what has the Justice Department, at various times it's called, this is the most segregated city in the United States. Why is that at the center of this campaign?
It's at the center of this campaign because of all the lessons that we learned from the pandemic. In the pandemic, we saw people who are low income and working class and who lost their jobs, who had to hunker down and be on lockdown for a long time. We saw the inequities take the lives of Black and brown people disproportionately. The low-income folks took the biggest hits. They live in the most densely populated, smaller quarters in their homes. We saw that. We saw more poor and people of color get sick than ever before. And it led to much of the civil unrest that also occurred in Chicago. We ask, why do these things happen? They happen because we have, worked through structural racism, where redlining and discrimination and disinvestment and neglect have produced these conditions where it breeds violence, it breeds hopelessness, and it culminated with a lot of the civil unrest that we saw all over the country. The lessons of this need to be heeded, and we need to take actions and measures that will create systems that represent equity and equal opportunity, and that are investing in areas that have experienced the greatest inequities for decades, certainly in Chicago. That's why it is so important. It is not only a moral question, it's also an economic and a political imperative as well, that we take measures to ensure that every neighborhood is healthy, that every neighborhood has essential good things like access to health care, a good neighborhood school, the ability to have, within walking distance as possible, access to grocery, good, safe, clean, and reliable transit. Those are the types of neighborhoods that we've got to create moving forward. If that, it's just a matter of time before we see inequities explode and produce the type of instability that we are seeing in our city today.
Let me ask you this, because crime, the corporate media have framed this race as crime. This crime is the issue, crime is the issue, crime is the issue. And my question for you is, but when you talk to Black and brown people, we see intersectional problems. We say, our schools have been closed. We don't have access to the education that more affluent parts of the city do. We've been the frontline workers. We didn't have access to, as you just kind of referred to this, we didn't have access to the tests. We had to work anyway at the height of the pandemic when we didn't even have PPEs, and on and on and on and on and on. It goes. We saw the inequities just play all the way out through COVID. But one of the, and then of course we had the killing of George Floyd, which sparked this whole discussion about what to do about the police. What can we do? I mean, where do you see what are the issues with the police, and how do we heal the breach between the police and the community?
Well, it's really important that new leadership in the mayor's office, in the office of the next police superintendent, embrace rebuilding trust in Chicago among community residents, especially those that experience the greatest levels of violence most of the time, and police officers get to know each other. We've got to get back to having the hard conversations about what we've experienced, what people in the neighborhoods have experienced. Look along a history of officers who have abused their powers, people like John Burge and Sergeant Watts and Detective Guevara, for example, and the harm that they have inflicted. These are memories that people in Chicago have today. That's why modernizing the police department, having a superintendent who understands these things, and a superintendent who is committed to bringing about change through relationship building, investing in things like violence prevention, and working with organizations and individuals that do that type of work, having more appropriate responses to non-violent situations where people are in need of mental health, where there are domestic violence disputes, where hate crimes have occurred, is really important. Prioritizing violent crime by detectives and police officers and uniformed officers is very important, but we also have to invest in other approaches that require that type of engagement with community residents. Implementation of the consent decree is another very important element of that type of reform and modernization of the department. So all of these things need to be happening simultaneously. In addition to that, the city has the responsibility to take the lead on comprehensive community development, to take measures that produce and scale up the production of affordable housing in communities that have all of these empty lots, many of whom are owned by the city of Chicago, and it needs to be able to turn over property to help clean up land for that. That isn't happening at a sufficient enough ratio in Chicago to enable people to see real progress on the ground, new development happening that can instill a sense of hopelessness and restore some confidence that Chicago is a good place to remain in the future, and that Chicago can turn a corner and begin to grow its population. Growing the population is a concrete sign that we are on a bounce back and that we have opportunities in the future that will be accessible to people everywhere in Chicago. So it's both a combination of public safety measures, but holistic public safety measures, and then economic measures as well, to demonstrate that things are different and that there is reason to want to stay in Chicago, to attend Chicago public schools, because the schools will become better resourced. But what I'm talking about is a comprehensive approach to community development. This is what I learned in my training at the nonprofit sector at the University of Illinois with my urban planning degree, and these will be the approaches that I will direct as mayor of the city of Chicago for our Department of Planning, Department of Housing, other departments, to bring about those types of developments that people can begin to see, that can restore a sense of hope in the future. Many people in Chicago have lost hope, and I think that's what's driving the increase in crime all over Chicago.
No, I mean, and not enough money, Congressman Garcia. Is there anything that can be done on the local level, about the wages and about access to city contracts? Black and brown people don't have, and Asian people do not have the access. Indigenous people, We don't have that clear pathway, even to getting on the police force or to be fire persons, let alone entrepreneurs who could perform services for the city. After all, that is how a lot of our prosperous businesses have been built, by getting these city contracts, these state contracts. I mean, just before you go, what can we do to make this, when we talk about equity and we talk about, we need money, you know.
There are, yes, and the economic investments are critical to improving the quality of life and instilling a sense of hope in people. Now, there are a variety of things that we have, a toolbox that we have to work with, and those are the good news. In Congress, we passed the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. It'll be with us for the next 10 years. Chicago is poised because of all of the transportation assets that we have here, whether it's highways or transit systems, trains and buses, O'Hare Airport, Midway Airport, to become a part of an economic engine that more equitably employs people, that provides opportunities for minority and women business in that, especially through the procurement process. The Infrastructure and Jobs Act, coupled with the CHIPS Act, the manufacturing bill that we approved in Congress, that Chicago has great potential to benefit from. For example, if you go on my economic development plan, you'll see that I have proposed the creation of a green manufacturing district on the west side along I-290, strategically located. We can build pipelines so that young people who are graduating from high school, who are graduating from junior colleges, can have a direct participation in the career jobs that will be developed by a growing manufacturing district and an economy in Chicago. This is a part of the future. Lastly, I would say it's the third bill that is a part of our toolbox is the bill in energy investments. It's known as the Inflation Reduction Act, kind of a misnomer of a bill that is going to provide an opportunity for people to install solar panels on their roofs, new heating and air conditioning units in their homes, in their basements, so that they have more efficient, less contaminating systems of cooling and heating. The federal government is going to enable people to get these amenities and modernize their homes through tax credits. Another way that we will invest in Chicago, create many jobs, train people for the jobs of the future in green manufacturing and in technology as well. So we have some tools to work with. This is unprecedented funding, and let us not forget that these bills are the biggest thing that Congress has approved since the New Deal. So these are the critical hardwares for rebuilding a more equitable Chicago that is rooted in economics and economic opportunities, which mean jobs and career development opportunities as well.
Congressman Chuy Garcia, everybody. He is running for mayor. Is there anything that's been left unsaid? Is there anything else you would like to say, Congressman Garcia, before you go?
Yes, that 40 years ago we had a stellar example of the type of government that Chicago needs. We had, for the first time, an administration that looked like Chicago. That is how I intend on governing. My administration will be reflective of the African American community, the Asian community, European American community as well. We can't become a world-class city with equity at its core if we leave anyone behind. That's the lesson of COVID. That's the lesson of the civil unrest that Chicago has experienced, and these are the lessons that we need to execute and implement and incorporate into a government that seeks to be responsive, that seeks to demonstrate a vision and inclusivity in everything that's Chicago. It's economics, it's politics, it's culture, as we move forward with a diverse city seeking to reclaim its status as a safe and prosperous world-class city.
Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia, thank you so much for being with us today. It meant a lot to have you here with us.
Thank you, Santita. Have a great day.
Oh, God bless you. Hey, everybody, I want you to call me at 763-9278. 773-763-9278. I want to know, who will you be voting for? Have you made up your mind? Are you part of the more than 100,000 people who have voted already? Wow. Now those numbers are down in black wards. Interestingly, but not every place else in the city. So who do you think is voting? Why do you think they're voting? Why have you voted? Why will you be voting? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want to know what you think about this election. It's 9 people who are running. 9 people, 9 people. What do you think about the really the Paul Vallis being in the lead? What do you think about that, given his stance on critical race theory and his affiliation with the police? But, no one is going to elect someone who is not supportive of the police. In fact, we're all supportive of the police. We want the police to have our backs. We just don't want them on our backs. We want them to be regulated. We want them to be well behaved so that they can be respected by us. We're going to call them, but we don't want to call them and not trust them to do the right things for the right reasons. So it's clear our police need support, and we should open up conversations, dialogues with them, and also call them out when they abuse the public trust. When you have power, you must use it so that you don't, and use it, do not abuse it, because if you abuse it, you will lose it. Think about that, everybody. My father tells us that all the time. You don't use your power that way. President Lincoln said, if you want to test a man's character or a woman's character, first give them power. Think about that. Give someone power. Give someone power. And so it's important to hear candidates say and to see their record on inclusion and diversity. And not just diversity in terms of phenotype, what you look like. I mean, diversity of thought. See, I'm all for administrations that have everybody there, because everybody's thoughts do matter. That having been said, Chicago has been on paper the most segregated big city in the United States. So you have to have a special attention to diversification. You have to have a special attention to equity in a society that favors the very, very wealthy, that favors the oligarchs. Yeah, we have oligarchs in the United States. We just call them, big business people, the masters of the universe. Yeah, well, that's what we've got. And it is running us into the ground. You have more and more poor people. You have more and more people falling out of the middle class into financial insecurity, and fewer people who are getting more and more of the resources. That's not right. There are many entrepreneurs here in Chicago who have been discouraged by the procurement process because it is so lengthy, it is so onerous. People just give up. And after you give them one set of information, they want something else, and then something else, and then something else, and then something else. The process needs to be streamlined. It appears that people are grandfathered and grandmothered in. That is, some people who have had families in this process, they have the advantage over you and me. That's not right. So let's think about that, everybody. What are we going to do? Which candidate is going to make Chicago really work for everybody? Think about that, everybody. Think about that and look at people's track records. I encourage you to do that. Call me at 773-763-9278. Indeed, we have got Commissioner Brandon Johnson coming on at the top of the hour so that we can hear what his thoughts are. He has emerged as a top-tier candidate. Many reports are saying that it will be Paul Vallis in the runoff, or the mayor, or Brandon Johnson, or Congressman Garcia. Who do you think it's going to be? Who should it be? Who do you want it to be? Because you're the one who determines that. You're the one who makes the decision, because you're the one who has to vote. Don't let anyone tell you that your vote does not matter. Every single vote matters. Every single one. And you are the person you've been waiting for. So get out and vote, everybody. More than 100,000 of us have already voted, but not on the west side, not on the south side. What are we waiting on? What are we waiting on? Get out and vote. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. Coming up, Commissioner Brandon Johnson. What does he plan to offer the city of Chicago? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. My girl Jewel, she said, call me, and she's up in New York at 773-763-9278. I want to know if you're going to vote, and whom will you be voting for? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. And join my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and on the Santita Jackson and Friends page right here on WCPT820.com and AM950radio.com. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show with Commissioner Brandon Johnson. Thank you, Congressman Chuy Garcia. Back in just a few more minutes with the Santita Jackson Show. All right, you guys. Thank you, Jewel. So everybody, this is oh boy, that hour passed quickly, didn't it? It sure did. It did. Thank you, Devin. Devin, I'm having to read upside down. Okay, absolutely. He needs to reading upside down. So, all right, everybody. So what do you think about this race in Chicago? This is, boy, it's something else. It really, really is. Incredible. And incredible. Okay, so there's that. Okay. All right, you guys. So we got that. And let me go to here. Okay, got that. Okay. All right. And then we're going to have Dwight McKee and Kitty Kurth and Kevin Lampe at the bottom of this hour to talk about the election, to talk about what we're hearing. Apparently, there was someone outside of the Vallis campaign headquarters who was being quite vocal about candidate Vallis's stance on critical race theory. He's not supportive of teaching it in our schools, and it became a physical altercation resulted from it, right? Is this my Abraham? How you doing, my sweet Abraham? How you doing, my sweet? Oh, I'm so glad to see you this morning. It's always a joy. How are you down there? How you doing down there? Sending you much love. Now, what Paul Anka song are you talking about? You know, I'm a huge Paul Anka fan. Love him. You know, he wrote the theme to the Tonight Show, My Way, for which, of course, that is Frank Sinatra's song, who I absolutely adore. And Having My Baby, and all. Oh boy, all these songs is great. But he's a great songwriter. Great songwriter. Sending you all much love this morning. Hey. Oh, well, you know, more Black, you know, we should be talking about, we should be teaching our history, but, you know, I think that, you know, it's something that you have to teach in schools, but it's also something that you have to teach, at home, and you have to teach in your churches.
Sending Commissioner Johnson and Chaparral through.
Thank you, because I think about my friend. You know what? If begging Chaparral.
Yes, Santita.
Chaparral, begging your pardon, can I have you come on at 7:30? Because I want to give the commissioner as much time as I can. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm going to see if Rabbi can call in and tell you about that incident with
Okay.
Dallas County.
Okay, do that. Definitely
right,
do
thank
that.
you.
Okay, no, thank you. Commissioner Johnson, how are you? No, thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Good morning, I'm doing well. Hey, good morning, Santita. Doing okay? How are you?
I see you doing well. My goodness. You are surging in the polls. I'm like, whoa, look at Commissioner Johnson go. I'm like, he's leaving WCPT behind. Oh, he might have another job. Oh, bless your heart. Bless your heart. Look at you. Look at you. Well, how's your family doing?
We're doing well. In fact, my wife is about to leave out with the two little ones, and in about 5 minutes, I'm going to wake up the big one. He has to start getting ready. Everybody do it.
Ah, it's hard to believe. I remember when she was having these children. It's like, what? I'm like, high school? What? Oh, oh, shit. I'm sorry. It's just a little bit too much for me. I said, wait a minute.
I saw on Facebook that there's another Jackson champion. I saw
Hey.
basketball champion stuff. That's pretty cool.
Hey, little Yusuf, who's not so little anymore, who's got the world's biggest afro. It's bigger than yours, bigger than his grandfather's used to be. I was like, how much longer are you gonna let this hair grow? He finally cut it. I was like, you got the biggest afro this side of Reverend. and Commissioner Johnson. Oh, bless your heart. Bless your heart. But I'm glad you're here with us today. And certainly want you to address, whatever it is that you want to address. But I think we've got to look at, certainly we're on Facebook Live now. You know how I do things. But I want to talk about what you see, not just in crime, but with education, because that's how I met you through that process. And you and I are both real fans of the Chicago public school system. And we know the excellent education that the Chicago public schools can provide if they're properly resourced. Because see, Commissioner Johnson, I was part of that first full graduating class at Whitney Young. And people fought tooth and nail to get into Whitney Young. People left U-High, University of Chicago Lab School. They left Francis Parker. They left the Latin School. I mean, people wanted to go to Whitney Young because they had stuff that no other school in the city had, including the superintendent's daughter, who was pulled out of Hearst High School, and the CTU president, Jackie Vaughn's son, Carl. He was a year ahead of me. And I just know that, the schools, we can do great things if we have that intention. They pulled the best teachers. They did all of that. I just want to see that in all the neighborhood schools. That'll help tamp down a lot of this madness out here when people feel that they've got possibilities. But there's a lot to talk about, and Renee is sending you much love. She voted for you. That's right. She says that on every show. When she comes in. Stand by. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's one day before Election Day here in Chicago. We are about to elect a new mayor. Who will it be? Will we have a runoff on April 4th? Well, it looks like we will. Who will be in the runoff? We don't know, but I tell you who does know. You know, because you're the ones who are going to be voting. We are absolutely setting records with the vote. Wow. I mean, at the beginning of last week, 4 years ago, 2,500 people had voted, right? At the same point in the election. At the beginning of last week, more than 40,000 people, now more than 100,000 people. The voting is surging, but not on the south and west sides. So who's voting? Are you going to vote? You better vote. Don't let the minority determine what the majority need. So you need to get out here and vote. Please vote. We've got Commissioner Brandon Johnson with us today, so I'm going to get through these headlines very quickly so that we can hear from him and hear about his plans for Chicago. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 55 degrees today and showers. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 37 degrees with the rain. The NBA All-Star break is over, and the Bulls were triumphant over the Wizards, 102-82. And the Warriors, the Timberwolves fell to the Warriors, 109-104. And in the NHL, the Wild 3, the Blue Jackets 2. Chicago will be playing the Ducks tonight. We have got crazy, crazy weather all over the country, everybody. Crazy, crazy weather all over the country. Tornadoes. This is really supposed to be happening in April, but it's happening here right now. A barrage of storms, of snow, rain, and harsh winds is forecast from the West Coast through our region, the Great Lakes, today, following a similar string of severe weather last week. 284,000 homes, mostly in Michigan, are without power today. More than 100 other storm reports were recorded in parts of the central U.S. as hurricane force winds pounded Oklahoma in particular and Texas. Everybody, please be careful. Be careful. The U.S. Department of Energy has assessed that the COVID-19 pandemic most likely came from a laboratory leak in China. President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan goes before the Supreme Court on Tuesday. Millions of student loan borrowers could see up to $20,000 of their debt discharged. What will the Supreme Court decide? Will they side with students or with the banks? Yes, I had to say that. And Erin Brockovich to the rescue. She was down in East Palestine, Ohio, with the residents, having a town hall meeting, exhorting them to fight. Just think about this. Norfolk Southern has been under such pressure that they actually relented and gave 3,000 unionized workers paid sick leave, which is what all rail workers across the country do not have. They've been fighting for it. That's why they were pushing for the strike. I hope they continue to push and get it. Everybody deserves paid sick leave in America today. Indeed, one of the union movement's bright lights, one of the education world's bright lights, is a man who could become the mayor of Chicago, one of the biggest and most consequential cities in the United States and in the world today. Indeed, he has shocked the world by surging to second place in many, if not most polls. And so, of course, get out and vote, everybody. Whatever you do, get out and vote. But he's a father, a husband. He is a former teacher. He is a Cook County commissioner, someone who has just sought to serve, and one of 10 children, a man after my own heart. When you come from one of these big families, you understand how that works. Even though my parents only did half of that, it was like, goodness gracious. It teaches you a lot. Well, let me ask you this. What did you learn as one of 10 that has helped you in public life?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Santita, to the WCTP family across the world. Good to be with you all this morning. Yes, being raised in a home with 9 siblings. And here's the thing, I don't talk about this a lot, but my parents, Santita, believe it or not, they were also foster parents. So sometimes our home had more children than the ones that my parents gave birth to. So with one bathroom. So I learned early in life how to negotiate, especially with women. And I think the biggest testament, though, to being raised in a large family is, we are only as strong as the person who is struggling the most. And I learned early in life, we bring everyone with us. And really that's what this campaign, this candidacy has been about. There's room for everybody in the city of Chicago. I'm convinced and confident that no one has to be too poor to live in one of the richest cities, one of the richest countries, at the wealthiest time in the history of the world. That's what I was taught growing up.
Well, I mean, my goodness, foster parents and parents to 10. Well, what can you say? You come by service honestly. Let's get right to this. The corporate media have shaped this campaign around crime. And you have held on to your position that we need to, I don't know if it's been the right way to frame this, not defund the police, but refund the police, shift the funding around so police can get the adequate supports that they need to do their jobs. Is that what you've been talking about? Please explain your position on police, because there's a lot of discussion about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, acknowledging the fact that it is a serious problem, that's important, and we're all living through the economic despair that, quite frankly, has left many of these communities isolated, and that's why we're seeing the outbreak and the manifestation of trauma that comes out in many different violent forms, and I'm happy to get into all of those. But It is a serious problem. As you indicated, my wife and I were raising 3 children on the west side of Chicago, and we love the west side. We love our community, and it's a community that has struggled over the course of decades now. And it is one of the more violent neighborhoods in the entire city of Chicago. So we experience it firsthand. It's not something that just comes across the news. It's right outside our front door. And what I've said repeatedly is that we have to do what safe American cities do, which we have to invest in people. And one of the first things we have to do is invest in passing treatment, not trauma. And what that ordinance will do, it will provide first responders of clinicians, of mental health professionals to respond to what ultimately are 40% of the 911 calls. 40% of the 911 calls that come through are mental health crises. We are asking police officers to behave as social workers and marriage counselors. It's just not right. It's not fair. We pass treatment, not trauma. We'll have EMTs and mental health professionals showing up to the 911 calls. What that does is it frees up law enforcement to actually focus on and deal with the more serious violent offenses. Because we also know, Santita, that over 40% of the violence that occurs in the city of Chicago, it takes place in 6% of the entire city. So this is about being smart of how we deploy our services. The last thing that I'll say is as it relates to public safety, there's a direct correlation between youth employment and violence reduction. And that's why my education plan, my budget plan, my sweeping public safety plan gets at that. And we're going to stand up the largest youth employment program that this city has seen. And we're going to make these positions year-round. We're also going to promote within the rank and file 200 more detectives so that we actually have people who are prepared to actually help solve and bring closure to the violent crime that takes place in the city of Chicago. We're also going to spend to make sure that the consent decree is actually implemented with all expediency. In other words, this is an investment plan. My public safety plan is an investment plan because we have to get at the immediate crisis, right? Mm-hmm. But we also have to make sure we're speaking to long-term solutions. That's why I'm also committed, finally, to reopening our mental health centers. Because the trauma that we're all experiencing throughout the city of Chicago, and it is quite severe. We have to treat that trauma. We have to solve the violent crimes that take place because we already know that those who are victims of violence are more likely to carry it out. Mm-hmm. And so our plan takes a smart, holistic approach. We look at the budget. Right now in the CPD budget, there are 2 to 3 graphic designers. I don't know. I don't know how graphic designers make it safer. So we have to explore all of this. And many of the recommendations that I've received that have informed my public safety plan comes directly from rank and file members. Police officers have made many of these suggestions and they've gone ignored under my administration. We won't ignore the problem anymore. We're going to tell people the truth and we're going to invest in people. And that's ultimately how we're going to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago.
We're talking to Commissioner Brandon Johnson, one of the top tier candidates, a man who would be mayor. I want you to call us at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. You can vote today. You will be able to vote tomorrow. That's the last day. Get out and vote. We've seen a surge in voting, everybody. Get out and vote. Let me ask you this, Commissioner. What about education? I mean, we have overseen just the massive closure of our schools, particularly in the Black community. And it's had a devastating effect. We've watched a contraction of vocational education. The first time I took a high school class, I was in 8th grade. Dunbar was not too far, was like a couple of blocks from my grammar school. So it was a group of us who were allowed, about 5 or 6 of us who were allowed to go to Dunbar. We had to start class at 8:00 in the morning, right? And it was exciting. And what was exciting to me was walking past the house that the Dunbar students had built in the middle of the school. It was in the middle, literally in the middle of the courtyard of the school. And when we found out that high school students had built a house, it was like, what? This is so exciting. And we don't see those opportunities. And then we see the impact upon the labor unions, because that means we can't get in the unions and on and on and on. What about vocational and academic education opportunities? It seems that we don't need fewer schools. We need more opportunities to get into, to have these schools. Talk to me. What about education? Because there is a direct tie between lack of educational access and an explosion in crime. People don't have options, Commissioner.
Yep. Yeah, you're spot on, Santita. Look, the bottom line is the business of education. The business of the city of Chicago is the education of Chicago. In fact, I think it's appropriate to have this conversation, especially as we, sort of wrap up, if you will, Black History Month. Though, of course, we celebrate it all year. But W.E.B. Du Bois said that public education at the expense of the state, particularly in the South, after all, is a Negro idea. That's a direct quote. But the hope of liberation, particularly from those who were enslaved, saw education as a pathway to real participation in democracy. And in fact, to your point, Santita, that children and families across the city, no matter who you are, Black, brown, white, Asian, rich, poor, low income, we're all applying for a system that is supposed to be free. That's unconscionable. And under my administration, you're going to have someone who actually believes in public education and the fullness of public education. To your point about the trades, that there's similar experience through workforce development. And I saw this, throughout the 90s as well, where students, by the time they graduated, had already developed the skills and the training to go into carpentry, electrician, welding. There's so many different economic opportunities that are available, and we have to use our education system to close the gap between graduation and job opportunities. If you are poor, you're struggling in the city of Chicago, and you make it through 12th grade, you graduate, and the council comes up to you and says, look, congratulations, but you're not quite done yet. You're going to have to borrow $100,000 or more. It's going to take you 4 to 5 more years to complete this, and there's no guarantee that you're going to have a job when it's over. Right? You think about how discouraging that is. And right now, Santita, there are, and this is in my public safety plan as well, there are 55,000 roughly manufacturing jobs available today in the city of Chicago, of which many of them, the average starting salaries in those positions are $85,000.
Oh
right?
Gosh.
And so through workforce development, as well as the training that we can offer, and starting that as early as 6th and 7th and 8th grade, we can begin to put people on a pathway to economic viability and sustainability. And to your point, it ultimately deals with the undercurrent of violence in the city of Chicago, because once people find purpose and have economic security, it begins to eradicate the violence that takes place as a result of just lack of opportunity. And so it's making sure that we have the sustainable community schools model that provides good community support and control for the schools. But we also have to make sure that we're implementing what will ultimately provide more resources for our public schools, which is my last point. As an organizer, Santita, I work with community organizations around the state to get the General Assembly to change the funding formula away from the pupil-based budget, where you receive a dollar amount per child, and we move it towards needs-based, right? The city of Chicago refuses to implement needs-based budgeting, which, as a result of that, we are missing out on $1 billion from the state of Illinois. We literally created a new funding formula to provide additional resources for families and communities where the needs are far more substantial. And this administration has refused to implement that. I'm not going to refuse to implement that. I'm going to fully embrace it to make sure that manufacturing jobs, trades, CDLs, and those who want to go on to college, that all of that is available, which includes in my plan free community college for CPS students, because we have to make sure that we're creating an opportunity from the moment a child is born all the way until at least their associates or certification, to provide economic opportunities for families. And that's how we retire this tale of two cities and usher in one story for one Chicago.
Well, speaking of a tale of two cities, we've been talking about critical race theory. You're an educator. And many educators feel like I don't know what to say when I'm teaching history, which is like your space. And we have, uh, the presumptive leader of the nine of you, as you surge, who's been critical of critical race theory. And again, the the um, the way we label these particular issues is problematic for me. Like defund the police, I'm like, no, it's refund the police. Critical race theory, no, it's American history, and American history is complicated, it's complex, but it's a right-wing country that's had a lot of left-wing movements, and it's made us better. I mean, it's that to me is really it. And so, do you think it is a mayor's place to weigh in on that? Because certainly a mayor has opinions about that. But I mean, where do you stand?
Yeah, absolutely. As a social studies teacher, as a history teacher, it is so important. It is critical that we are making sure that the history is being taught in an accurate way, because it also speaks to how we have to make sure that we're including the culture, the arts, the music, to language, right? Because that also preserves our existence. It also provides a pathway forward for us. And so, Paul Dallas, I just want to remind people, just in case people forgot, he was in charge of budget in the 90s, which has caused the economic peril that we're experiencing right now. Everywhere he has been in charge of the finances, he's been fired, and he's left a trail of tears all over the country. In fact, the budgeting is so bad, that's why I released a budget plan where I eliminate the debt within my first term while making critical investments up to $1 billion, and we do this without raising property taxes. Now, people have lied about my plan, and we provide clarity over and over again.
Well, no, please provide clarity about your tax plan, because people are attacking you about it, and we'd like to know. Whenever you say taxes, it makes us all faint.
Because it's actually a budget plan, right? A budget plan also requires, and this is what I do in my budget, we eliminate the efficiencies. We get rid of the debt that was caused by Paul Dallas's finances. When he was in charge in the 90s, I was in high school, right? And so we've seen the economic despair that it's caused. And so we don't raise property taxes. There is no city income tax. Those were all lies. And I want to make sure that it's clear, because what the city of Chicago has said overwhelmingly, that the vast majority of the city has said that the ultra rich and these big corporations have to pay their fair share of taxes. And look, when my budget plan was released, it's not that much different than what President Biden said. It's the union trust. I'm glad that maybe he read my budget plan, because he says that a teacher and a firefighter should not pay the same tax rate as a billionaire. And so that's consistent. That's what Chicago wants. And so, as we talk about, these economic opportunities that are available for us, we have to make sure that we're investing in them. And, as we, get closer to the election day, I want people to vote their hopes and dreams, right? And not play to the fears and the divisive nature that the old style of politics has done that have left families behind. And so with that, cultural competent curriculum and teaching accurate account of history, it places us in a position to move forward. I moved in a resolution, Santita, and I titled it "The Budget for Black Lives." And the motivation behind it was what Asa Randolph and other unionists and progressive voices did that led to the Great Society when they moved on the budget for all Americans, right? It became the impetus behind the Great Society that led to some of the greatest investment. And there were black and white elected officials that saw my resolution as symbolism. And I wish they would have paid attention in history class. This is why we have to teach, not just theory, because you have people running for office to run one of the largest economies in the world and did not see the connection between the budget that I moved to the county board and the history that comes with that with people like Asa Randolph. And as a result of the budget for Black Lives, we can retire up to $1 billion in medical debt. We have the largest universal basic income program in the world, in the country. And 55% of those who receive that check every single month, they are women of color. We've released $100 million into violence prevention, right? And so these budgets that we put forth, they're not just documents with numbers. There are real consequences when we don't budget right. There are real consequences when we don't teach an accurate account of our history. And yes, that's the long response to your question about the influence of the fifth floor to make sure that history is being taught correctly and that we are investing in the full scope of history. Again, that's art, culture, language. I mean, we know historically when countries come to dismantle or destroy a particular group, they go after their culture, they go after the writers, they go after the artists, they go after the critical thinkers, right? They go after poor people. And so my campaign has been very clear about making sure that working class people, middle class families, that their ideas and hopes are front and center, and that we're moving policy to pull people up out of poverty. We're taking everyone to the fifth floor. And there's a reason why we're searching. We've not only captured the imagination of the city of Chicago, but the hopes and the dreams of people who have been waiting for this moment. Remember when Reverend Martin Luther King visited Chicago, he said there was no place like Chicago.
Yes.
And he said that if we ever figured it out in the city of Chicago, it would have tremendous impact around the country. And so we are in a potential position. No, we are in a position to do what our ancestors dreamed of. And that's to bring the civil rights movement and the labor rights movement together and finally see the full manifestation of that potential. And I implore the listeners of WCPT to vote our best. And I believe that Brandon is better, and I want people to punch 5 come tomorrow.
Come alive, everybody. Commissioner Brandon Johnson, running for mayor of Chicago. Can't wait to talk about all that we have been hearing on the Santita Jackson Show on the other side of the break. Back in just a moment. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, Santita. I got a little preachy this morning. Thank you.
No. Look, I wanted to hear you do your thing. But before you go, we're on Facebook and we're on YouTube and people sharing and that. Is there anything else you would like to say before you go?
I just want to say thank you to the voters of the city of Chicago for not falling to the trap of the failed politics of old. I know people are feeling worried and they're feeling that despair, but I'm confident that a revival is possible in the city of Chicago and that we can build it and do it together. So I really want people to encourage folks to vote, and if they are inspired by our movement and our candidacy, don't just vote for yourself. Get other people to come to the polls. Let's demonstrate and show that not only do we believe that a better, stronger, safer Chicago is possible, but we are convincing other people to do the same, because it's going to take all of us to transform this city. And I'm grateful and humbled to be in a position to help lead that charge. I'm ready, Santita, and I'm looking forward to leading this city. Commissioner
Brandon Johnson, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you. Oh, bye-bye. Everybody, I want you to call us at 773-763-9278. What do you think? You heard from Congressman Chuy Garcia this morning. You heard from Commissioner Brandon Johnson. You've heard from everybody. I've been trying to get the mayor. I want to get her. Too. Hey, Mo Forte, how you doing, Mo? And Maureen said that wait a minute. Okay, now you said 21st Ward. Okay. They voted for Justin Sawyer. They did the write-in. Oh, okay. Well, everybody, I want you all to jump on in and let us know how you're voting. And a lot of people are voting. I hope it's you. So please, we need you. We need you to get out and vote. Do not let the minority make the majority decision. Don't do that. That's very reminiscent of slavery. Mm-hmm. Yes, Devin. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's hear everybody so we can make sure we have the sound right, Devin. Chaparral.
Yes, Santita, good morning.
Fantastic. Everybody, please, no earbuds or anything like that. You should sound like Chaparral. That's loud and clear. Kevin?
Good morning.
Good morning. Kitty?
Good morning.
All right. And Dwight? Okay, great. Kitty, do you have? Are you on ear? Are you on an earpiece at all? Because you don't sound as clear as
No.
everyone else. Okay. All right. Well, if you're using your phone as a mic, make sure you have the mic facing your mouth. Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Santita, I have the rabbi on hold. Do you like me to send him through or wait?
Oh, you can wait because I'm going to ask him. I saw a video with him. I'm glad he called in.
Okay. He's on hold right now, but yeah, okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the rabbi has been working really, really hard for not only the children of Chicago, but the mothers
60 seconds.
of the children too, Santita. So he's a great resource for us.
Okay. Fantastic. But he was the gentleman in the video, yes?
Yes,
Okay.
he is.
All right, everybody, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And Jewel is waiting for you, Dwight McKee. Go, go, go. Jewel, one of our faithful listeners, who I will see in New York when Jewel, I'll be there on the 21st, I think, of the 22nd. I'm always excited when I come to New York.
10 seconds.
You know, that's my other home. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the energy. Oh. Stand by. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. We're talking about the mayoral election. The last day to vote is tomorrow. Have you voted? A lot of people have voted. More than 100,000 Chicagoans have voted in this election. But we're seeing the voter participation down on the south and west sides. What's going on, everybody? Please do not let the minority make a majority decision. And if you do not vote, that is exactly what you're doing. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. We've got, of course, Dwight McKee, noted social scientist, and Kitty Kurth of Kurth Lampe Worldwide, public relations, political strategist. No one in the world does it better, along with Kevin Lampe, her husband. Political strategy, crisis management, this is what they do, and they do it all over the world. And as I said, they're the best at it. But first up, Chaparral Wells. Chaparral Wells, very engaged in this election, but you have a big event where you are raising money to send kids to school. Chaparral?
Yes, Santita. We are having our annual Courtney Copeland Memorial Foundation Gala this Friday, March 3rd, at the JLM Community Center at 2622 West Jackson at 7 p.m. And we're asking everyone to come out and support us because we are raising funds to send kids away to college. And we are actually having a great time. We're going to have food, dancing, some live entertainment, as well as also some raffles. So please visit www.copelandmemorial.com. That's www.copelandmemorial.com to purchase your ticket. If you can't personally come, please consider donating a ticket to a family member who has lost a child to gun violence in Chicago. So visit www.copelandmemorial.com. Thank you so much, Santita.
All right, CopelandMemorial.com, everyone. Well, let's get right to it. What about this election? What have we heard? We heard from Congressman Chuy Garcia today, who's putting equity and inclusion and diversity, equality, freedom right in the middle of his campaign. He's someone who's worked on coalition building. I've known him since I was a kid, 40 years ago. Many people think that supporting Harold Washington was an easy thing. No, you kind of signed your political death certificate when you did that. But thanks be to God, that did not happen. But him winning that election was of tremendous consequence. Remember, he almost lost to someone who the night of the election was in um, a psychiatric ward. Bernie Epton, God rest his soul, God bless this man. Everyone knew he was emotionally and mentally troubled. But the idea of this black person becoming mayor was just was such a big issue, and it was so unsettling to so many people. They almost elected a man who was literally in a hospital the night of the election, who almost won. You can't make this stuff up. Kitty Kurth, of course, you remember that well, and and Kevin Lampy, you remember that well. It's just, but it seems this election, it's just there is like a low grade electricity about it. Uh, Kitty Kurth. I mean, we're looking at the mayoral race, but one of the things that you've wanted us to be mindful of is that there are other races that are of tremendous consequence as well. Kitty Kurth?
Well, good morning, everyone. Here in Chicago, we are lucky enough to have local level elected officials actually are engaged and do provide services. When I tell people in other cities what we go to our alderman for and what our alderman's office does for us, and when they have local problems, that I tell them, well, call your alderman. They don't know what I'm talking about because other cities don't work the way we do. So as much as you might be frustrated because when you call to get your alley fixed, it doesn't get fixed, we have the opportunity on Tuesday to elect someone who will return your phone calls, who will fix your alley, who will worry about your local schools, who will worry about your safety, who will worry about jobs locally. So don't forget to vote for aldermen. And if you can't figure out who to vote for mayor or alderman, the Chicago Sun-Times does have a good site where you put in what's important to you and how you feel about issues, and the Sun-Times matches you with the candidate that best matches your choices.
Kevin Lampy, what's your assessment of this campaign thus far?
Well, we've got a number of people running, and we've got two tiers of candidates, but we have one candidate that's really jumped ahead and captured probably what I would call the center to the right of the city, and Paul Vallis. He has used dog whistle politics. He is there about let's send more police, let's arrest ourselves out of this problem. This just isn't a way to handle the situation in Chicago. We need a mayor that is going to look at the root cause of what's going on and creating the crime situation in Chicago. We need a candidate that is going to listen to every single part of the city, just not be concentrated on the edges of the city, and be beholden to the police. And that's just not the way for our city to be governed.
Dwight McKee, your assessment of the campaign thus far?
Well, I was really disappointed in the campaign. I was looking for a Maynard Jackson type. Maynard Jackson used building the Atlanta airport as an opportunity to bring minorities into the economic mainstream. I watched Mayor Daley use an airport to build up the western suburbs. I watched him use the Dan Ryan Expressway to bring Bridgeport and some of the other crowds into the economic mainstream. I watched him use the public sector to bring the Irish into the economic mainstream. I didn't hear that from anybody. I thought maybe we would have somebody who talk about a third airport on the south side or in the south suburbs that we could use to bring minorities into the economic mainstream. I didn't hear any of that. I didn't hear any of them talking about using taxing the border trade and taxing these economic engines who make millions and trillions and billions of dollars off the rioters of the inner city. Taxing them to bring us into more equitable reality and to be able to reinvest in the communities that they've been able to exploit. They've taken the tax money and been giving that to the rich for the last 25 years. I was looking for and to converse for that. Like it was a plan to empower those people who have been left out of the economy. I didn't hear any of that.
What's the consequence of not hearing any of that?
I think same old. I think once you make crime the issue, which they did was make crime the issue, what you have is more of the same. All of the resources don't go to the police department. It's going to go to young people up. It's going to be used to avoid opportunity. And all you're going to have is more pension funds you have to pay for the next 50 years. And you will have the reinvestment in those communities, Southwest communities, most of the Irish communities that benefit from public sector jobs. I think without a plan, that kind of plan, you have same old.
Call us at 773-763-9278. Who do you plan to vote for? Whose plan is one with which you agree, or what's missing from these plans? I want to hear from you. In fact, we have someone who's called in, and there is a video of him outside of Paul Vallis's office, someone who's worked in the community for any number of years, Rabbi Michael Ben Yosef. And so I'm so excited that you're with us today. We saw this video. It was a little unsettling. How are you, Rabbi?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you for having me. God bless your show and all that you do for the community. It's just very much very blessed to be able to explain everything.
Well, God bless you. And if you could, I need you to come off your speaker so that we can hear you most clearly. You were outside of Paul Vallis's headquarters. What happened? And what were you doing there?
Well, I was exercising my right under the Constitution that the so-called Constitution declares that anyone that's homeborn has the right to freedom of protest, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly. So I exercised that right. I'm at the restaurant down at the mark, and I had a whole brand camera, and I had
Rabbi, hold on. Rabbi, hold on one moment, because we're getting a bit of an echo. Hold on, Rabbi, we're getting a bit of an echo from you, and I wanted to clear that up so that we can hear you, because it sounds like you're in a can. Are you on an earpiece or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm actually in I'm in my job right now, so that's probably what it is.
You're in a.
Can you hear me better now? How about that?
Just a little bit. Yes. If you can just put your mouth toward the microphone, that would be, because we want to be able to hear you. The sound's a little distorted.
Okay, very good. Well, I will exercise my rights to freedom of assembly, or freedom of speech, or freedom of protest with regards to the November 21st, 2021 podcast interview that Paul Vallis did on a show online. And I found it very interesting that the moderator asked the question about critical race theory. And so I listened to the interview, and he got to the segment of 2045, I would say, on the video. And so now Paul Vallis got on there and talked about race critical theory. And him being an ex-CEO of Chicago Public Schools, he knows better. And he went on an rant basically saying that if a child learns in public schools from the history of Black history, of being discriminated against all those who have been murdered and been victimized and terrorized, that this child can go home to his parents and question his parents, why did you tell me that my ancestors experienced something I knew some other people that does not look like me? And basically goes on to say that you don't want that child that experienced that trauma, you don't want that conversation to be had in the home. then he said that the teachers who are going into providing this information, this teaching in the classroom, is divisive. That's what he said. The client is divisive teaching. And he said that this takes the teacher off what her core responsibilities is as an educator, that she should be only focused on the core issues, not anything that deals with something that deals with such as the curriculum of discrimination and civil rights or anything that deals with humanity. So I went out there to protest him and his organization, his campaign, and I was assaulted. You can see in the video, I held my sign, I held my bullhorn, and the video, played on my video that was his actual voice, and then the staff came out and attacked me. They just destroyed my equipment. So this is what it goes. This is how it is when you're on the front line of standing for justice, standing for equality, standing for humanity. That we as activists are targeted because we're speaking truth to power. And I just felt the need to speak truth to power, knowing that this is an individual that will come in and be elected as a mayor of Chicago and be responsible for so many lives, so many minds that are going to be looking at this person for leadership. And it was almost, in my opinion, a pandering to the people of North that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that you don't have to deal with any of this Black Lives Matter slogan, this victim type of lifestyle that we want you to have all white erased from the minds of young children, so they don't feel themselves responsible for them to have any bit of accountability. That's what basically it was. So I was out there, and I'm okay right now. Just a little bit, looking at what I'm doing today. Be out there today at City Hall to protest again.
Okay.
It needs to be.
Oh no! I mean, we saw the video on Facebook, and it was unsettling. But I want to thank you for calling in. I want to thank you for really amplifying this issue. And I want to ask, before we go to Renee, who's called in. Well, let me go to you, Renee. Renee, your thoughts.
Good morning, Santita and future Mayor Johnson, and thanks for taking my call. You can probably tell that I already voted for Commissioner Johnson. And I voted for him not because I'm a teacher, because I'm at the end of my career, but I voted for him because he's someone that I see will make an effort to bring equity to the citizens of Chicago, who will not leave communities like my North Lawndale community and the Austin community where I work behind, like they've been left behind for so long. I met Paul Dallas back in the 90s when he came to my school as the principal for the J. He was with Jamie Diamond, and I believe Mr. Chico was with them. I can't remember. There were three of them, though. Mr. Dallas seemed very nice. It was a hot, steamy day in the spring. They couldn't take the heat, literally. So by lunchtime, they had removed their jackets, their ties, and then they removed themselves from our school. But they didn't send any resources to our school so that we could have air conditioning, so that the students and the staff wouldn't have to suffer through those hot, steamy days. That's what I remember about him. And I remember how they changed the seniority in the schools, where instead of being able to use your seniority to bump throughout the city, they limited where you could bump to your individual schools, which made it easier to close individual schools and take all the jobs of those teachers. Oh, because they also took the cream of the crop with these charter schools he started, and then they put you on probation when your test scores dropped, when your top students were taken out. On the other hand, Mr. Johnson, he he's not going to leave us behind. He's not going to leave when it gets too hot. I've seen him out there marching, not just for teacher salaries, but what, if you pay close attention, what he has been marching for was to bring housing to the homeless students. He's been marching for libraries in all schools, for the arts to be in all schools, because we know that we need to develop the whole child, and we also need to make sure that children have places to go to live when they leave the school, and that they're well fed and taken care of, physically and mentally. So I think there's a stark contrast between Mayor Johnson and wannabe Mayor Paul Vallis. And I hope people vote correctly in this election to get the best candidate for the whole city. And don't be afraid because they talk about they hike the crime. They hike the crime. But there's so much more to the city than the crime rate. And like Mr. Johnson talks about, economics plays a role in that. And we know that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. That's what they used to say. So give people jobs, give them dignity, and then watch. I'm sure that'll help the crime go down, especially if the police start catching those few people who are committing the crimes and holding those few accountable, because most people don't commit crimes. And now, I have to run, but thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. Kevin Lampy, you were really one of the, well, initially you were almost a lone voice in calling candidate Vallis out about dog whistle politics. Do you, just having heard the rabbi and Ms. Renee speak, what say you?
Well, it says a lot about Paul Vallis that he's willing to use the tools of the far right to win this election. You know, he knew what he was doing when he talked about critical race theory in that way. He understood that that was going to appeal to a limited number of voters in Chicago. But what it does is, in this type of race where there's this many people running, he gets, 25, 26, 27, almost 30% of the vote in this first election. Then they'll make it into the runoff where it becomes a one-on-one race. And then we have a situation going back to the poor late departed Bernie Empton, where it becomes a too late situation. And I think Paul Vallis has run a brilliant campaign to be the largest candidate in this race.
Dwight McKee, I've got about a minute and a half before we get off the air. Your thoughts?
Oh, racism is so subtle when you're wrong. The Romans built the Parthenon, the Greeks built the Pantheon, but aliens built the pyramids. It's not to recognize us having the capacity to be equal. And the danger of that dog whistle politics, as a brother just talked about, is that it becomes a pretext to then begin to close the schools down, begin to put these charter schools up, begin to reinvest in the cream of the crop, and to dismiss the ordinary and as mediocre. And so it's the same thing in terms of the economy. It gives you a pretext to be able to give the already wealthy more contracts to the guys that they have capacity, and those who yet to have can't compete because, quote unquote, they don't have capacity. It gives you a subtext to maintain that superiority that you've had over the years, and justify it under the guise that these people are positioned to maintain control and maintain power, and these people who have been ostracized and who've been oppressed, by definition, don't have the capacity to come out of this, because now they are the victims of the conditions that they suffered through, has limited their capacity to get beyond that. and I see us going that way. I hope people make the right decisions and consolidate they have the right candidate. And particularly in a runoff, that they make the right decision.
Because this, you know, stay right there because I want to get some closing thoughts from you, Kitty Kurth, and Kevin Lampy on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and on Santita Jackson and Friends, because the quiet part is being said out loud right now, everybody. Dog whistle? No, it is a shout. And we cannot afford that. Reverend Jackson often says that we came over here in different ships, but we're in the same boat now. We all need to pull together and make America what it's supposed to be. What it's supposed to be. Not what the founding fathers originally fought for, but what it's really supposed to be, because we're the ones who've changed the game here. So let's think about that, everybody, and get out and vote. Get out and vote. Your vote matters. You matter. Go out and vote like it. See you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Kitty, what are your thoughts? I mean, because the rabbi was at the Paul Vallis office, and and he did what some people will do. He, was saying this is where you stand on critical race theory, and I don't like it, and I want someone to talk to me about it. And one of the campaign workers came out and got physical. I mean, but this is Chicago. I mean, this is the place where, Dr. King got hit in the head with a brick. And he said these were the meanest people he had ever seen in his life. Did he not say that twice?
Yes, he did.
Over there in Gage Park. He said, I've been down here in Alabama and Mississippi. I've been with Sheriff Clark. I've been with them all. But I got to Chicago. I had never seen racism like this. I'd never seen white people behave this way before. Whew. He said these were the meanest people he'd ever seen, Kitty. Kevin. Dwight was there. He had never seen anything. He had no frame of reference for the mean-spiritedness that he encountered here. And in fact, he left Reverend here. And let us clear this up, because I heard I had to correct someone. They said, Reverend Dr. King brought Reverend to Chicago. No, he did not. Reverend was already in Chicago. He had a full scholarship to the University of Chicago to get a master's in divinity. Okay. Reverend's always been an excellent student. And so he was at the University of Chicago. He had met Dr. King many years before because Reverend was a student leader, a nationally known student leader. He was even the student vice president of his national fraternity. Right. So Dr. King had heard about him, had seen him and all of that. But, Kitty, I mean, and the fact that he's running on this, that Paul Vallis is running on this. And quite frankly, Kevin was the one who's been he has been pushing this issue for the past few weeks that he's been on the show.
Santita, I was shocked. It was important for Brandon Johnson to remind us all about the importance of knowing history so we don't repeat it. Mm-hmm. I want to go and look at the video that the rabbi was talking about.
I'll send it to you.
I'm not surprised. Please post it on Facebook. But this is why voting matters. This is why reflect us and we reflect our leaders. If we want people to be better in the city, we need to have
Kevin Lampy, what do you say? Because the way this gentleman was handled, you can see. I mean, I only brought up what happened to Dr. King because Chicago we have an ugly side now. I love my city. I love it. But I also know I grew up in a Chicago that every mayor that I grew up under was from a community where I could not be after the sunset. Bridgeport was a place where Black people did not go. You did not go there. And we understood that. My mother picked my friends and I up from Whitney Young one day, and she was taking us to choir rehearsal. We were members of the Chicago Children's Choir in Hyde Park. And she took a wrong turn because she took local streets coming out of Whitney Young. She wasn't as familiar with this area. And we saw Welcome to Bridgeport, and all of us at 14 ducked in the car. And my mother, being a mom, said, don't worry, we're going to get out of here as quickly as we can. I grew up in that Chicago, Kitty. Mayor Daley, all of them, Mayor Belandic. I mean, they all came from that place.
Since Dallas doesn't actually live there, since he actually lives in the suburbs,
Ooh.
and he's just renting it there, I think it was just a joke.
No, you're not joking. Oh my gosh.
Not a joke. The suburban mayor.
Oh.
Well, this is, what Paul Dallas has done is kind of masterful into the using language that divides the city, but can back away from it. So, well, that's not real. What crowd he went out and solicited and got the support of the FOP.
Mm-hmm.
He knew what the city, he knew how the head of the FOP was talking in society. And so he understood fully what he was doing, and he realized that, I only need to get up to 20s to get him to the runoff, and then I can win a runoff. So he's always run a strategy of going to a very small minority of the city and a multi-candidate race. But it is a strategy based on dividing the city, not uniting the city.
What will be the impact in your estimation, Kevin? Should he win, or just even? I mean, but he's run on this, and it's like he's opened up something.
Well, he definitely has, and I think we're looking at just like Star Wars had us.
Star Wars had what? I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you.
We're looking at a sequel to Council Wars, just like we looked at a sequel to Star Wars, and then we're going to have a divided city council with 16 new members, at least 16 new people are going to be in city council after this election. And then we're looking at a council that is, everyone that's running for council right now is really focused on making this a return to a strong council, legal mayor system of government. And we're going to have deadlock, we're going to have instability, we're going to have a really troubling time where we're going to have a city council that is not interested in working with the mayor, and the mayor is not necessarily interested in working with the city council.
Dwight, your thoughts?
Well, I don't think he's going to win. I think that he won't get any more than 39-40%. I think they're going to consolidate behind the next candidate is. As in that election, as it becomes more exposed, and its true politics and its true motives becoming more exposed, I really don't think he can win. I think his strategy was divide and conquer, but I don't think he is able to divide enough and conquer enough to come out with the victory. And so, I totally agree that his politics are very, very, very dangerous. But I do think that there's enough time, high-profile media, that he's been able to coast in all of those subtleties that he's done in the past have not come to pass, but I think it will become a major factor in this next runoff campaign.
Well, I want to get some closing thoughts from all of you because, of course, voting ends tomorrow. You correctly said, Kevin Lampy, that this is the voting season, not a voting day. It's a voting season, and we have seen people are voting. Now, the voting is down on the south and west sides, but more than 100,000 people have voted. This is unbelievable. What does that say to you?
It says to me that there is an interest. It says to me that there's a lot of individual wards where there is complicated and big races going on because there's so many aldermen who have decided to retire and not run again. It tells me there is interest out there, but we've got to get the turnout on the south and west sides. They've got to come around and then show up there. Today they can still vote. Tomorrow's the final day to vote. I think there's still an opportunity. I do think that Paul Bowles is going to come out of this election here with a ceiling, not a floor. That his support is going to be limited to that number of voters. Like my friend Mickey has just said that it is, if he gets 40% in the runoff. Remember, because out of this primary, it's in effect kind of a primary situation where Paul Bowles has 30%, 70% of people don't like it. We're going to make sure that 70% coalesce together behind the one person that's running against Paul Bowles. And we get a mayor in there that's going to work with the people, not against the people.
Kitty, this is going to be very interesting tomorrow night. What you say?
Oh, yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Dwight McKee, your final thought?
My final thought is I think what's going to happen is that you have this momentum before the runoff, but I think it'll be a different momentum once he becomes engaged in one candidate and everybody begin to consolidate around that candidate. He is the big frog right now in a very crowded pond. But once the consolidation kicks in, and we know 7 candidates drop out, those 6 candidates drop out, I think it'll be a different kind of race. Because I think all of their constituencies, as they realize what he has done in the past, I think all of them will consolidate around the one candidate, even if they don't like him as much as they did the candidate they supported. They will see Paul Vallis as an existential threat to the future of the city, and hold their noses and consolidate even around the new candidate that they may not have liked going in. I think it's going to be, very, very interesting. And I think you'll see a real momentum, and you'll see a real momentum built around the new candidate. They will see them as essential to saving the future of the city. And so I don't worry so much about now those people who didn't vote in this campaign. Because I think they'll come out after the runoff.
Well,
it's interesting. There's one thing I always like to say. Voting is not an essay question. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why you vote. You just got to get out there and vote.
Amen to that. It's not an essay question. It's not. But you need to vote. Don't let the minority make a majority decision. Don't do that. If you complain about the oligarchs and the way things are, well, now this is your moment. Your vote is as weighted as Jeff Bezos's vote, as Elon Musk's vote, as the president's vote, really. And while in theory that is true, the more we vote, the more that will actually be true. You've got to get out and vote. And don't let anyone tell you that your vote does not matter. That is a psyop. That's a psychological operation that's designed to disempower you. Don't fall for it. Your vote matters. It matters. Get out and vote. Please get out and vote, and make sure you get other people to get out and vote. So important. So important. Thank you, Congressman Chuy Garcia for being with us today. Thank you, Commissioner Brandon Johnson for being with us. Thank you, Pamela Morris Walton. Thank you, Dr. Shanita Knighton. Thank you, Kitty Kurth, Kevin Lampy, Dwight McKee. Thank you, Devin, for a great show. Thank you all, everybody. Vote, vote, vote tomorrow night on WCPT, wall-to-wall coverage. Patty Vasquez, Joan Esposito, and I will be anchoring this coverage here at WCPT. It's going to be a great, 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 great night. And as Prince said, it's going to be a beautiful night. Oh, it's going to be great. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow, everybody. Love you. God bless you. Hey, Janet, what's going on, girl? Hey, Jewel, sending you all so much love. Sending you all so much love. Have a great one. All right. If you want to see the podcast of the show or hear it, go to WCPT820.com/Santita. I love you, everybody. God bless. Love you too, Janet.